A wealthy man discovers a lost girl in the forest and takes her to his disabled mother's house. Upon returning home and entering without knocking, he stumbles upon something unexpected and shocking. Diego Morales, a successful businessman and heir to one of the largest corporations in the country, drives back after another exhausting day at the office. As the main figure responsible for the family business his father founded, he constantly feels the pressure of maintaining their legacy. Although tired, his mind races with plans for the company's next strategic moves. Outside of work, Diego is a reserved man who prefers solitude to the complexities of social interactions. As he parks his car in the spacious mansion's garage, he lets out a deep sigh. The vast, silent house amplifies his loneliness. The only person he truly connects with is his mother, Dona Carmen, who is sadly in the advanced stages of Alzheimer's. Crossing the threshold and leaving behind the encroaching dusk, he is met with a heavy silence. Before proceeding, he reminds himself to subscribe to their channel so he won't miss any videos and can keep up with their emotional stories. "Rosario, I'm home," Diego announces, not expecting a response, knowing the housekeeper has likely already retired for the evening. However, to his surprise, Rosario appears in the hallway, looking concerned. "Mr. Diego, I need to talk to you about Mrs. Carmen," she says, her voice hesitant. Diego, anticipating the conversation, sighs again. "How is she today?" he asks, fearing the answer. "The same, sir, but she called for you several times. I think it would be good for you to spend some time with her, even if she doesn't remember it later," Rosario suggests. He nods, feeling the familiar guilt for not spending more time with his mother. "I'll go see her now," he says, heading toward the room where Dona Carmen spends her days. As he enters the room, Diego finds his mother sitting in her chair, staring out the window with a distant expression. "Mom, it's me, Diego," he says softly, trying to hide his sadness at her condition. Dona Carmen slowly turns her head, her expression confused for a moment before a flicker of recognition appears in her eyes. "Diego," she murmurs, her voice weak but full of affection. "Yes, Mom, it's me. How are you feeling?" he asks, gently holding her delicate hand. Diego talks briefly with her, even though most of her words are disjointed and confused. Each moment at her side serves as a painful reminder of the past. As he leaves the room, the weight of loneliness falls upon him again. The mansion, once vibrant, now feels like a mausoleum of memories. Seated on the sofa in the expansive living room, Diego reflects on his life. Despite his business successes, he feels an unfillable void. Loneliness consumes him, and he wonders if this is the life he is destined to lead, focused on work and caring for his mother. He craves more, but is uncertain where to find it. That night, after another solitary dinner in the imposing dining room, Diego feels the urge to escape the mansion. The countless rooms and empty corridors seem to imprison him in his own thoughts, and the vastness of the house amplifies the emptiness within him. He decides to take a walk through the woods surrounding the property. That natural space offers an escape, a place where he can breathe freely, away from the pressures and responsibilities he bears. Donning a coat to shield himself from the cold, he heads for the grove, where the fresh air and sounds of nature immediately calm him, a stark contrast to the oppressive silence of the mansion. Walking aimlessly, Diego allows his thoughts to drift. He reflects on his life, his mother's deteriorating condition, and the loneliness that envelops him. Yet this moment of tranquility is something he desperately longs for. As he navigates the path, soft moonlight illuminates his way through the trees, while the sounds of leaves crunching underfoot and the occasional chirp of a nightbird punctuate the silence. Diego ponders the simplicity of nature and how, despite his success in business, he longed for the simple companionship and understanding of another person. Suddenly, his thoughts were interrupted by a faint, almost imperceptible sound. He paused, straining to identify its source. It seemed like a low, muffled cry. Following the sound, Diego soon spotted a small figure huddled beneath a tree, a little girl, alone and crying in the dark woods. He approached her cautiously. "Hey, it's okay. What are you doing out here by yourself?" His voice was gentle, meant to soothe the child. The girl looked up, surprise and fear flickering across her face. "I got lost," she said, her voice thick with tears. "I don't know how to get back home." A wave of compassion washed over Diego for the lost child. "Don't worry, I'll help you find your way back. What's your name?" He knelt to her level, striving to seem as non-threatening as possible. "Isabella," she replied, wiping her tears away. Diego extended his hand. "I'm Diego. Come on, I'll take you home." As they walked side by side, Diego felt a strange sense of purpose. His concern for the lost girl briefly distracted him from his own troubles. As they moved along the path that would lead them to a busy avenue, likely her point of origin, Diego began to notice, for the first time, the condition of Isabella's clothes. Although clean, they were simple and worn, hinting at a reality starkly different from his own. "Isabella, do you know where your house is? Any direction you can remember?" Diego asked, expecting her to mention a nearby street or neighborhood. The girl's answer surprised him. "My house is a cardboard house. I think it's a bit far from here, in a place where nobody else wants to go. I know where it is, but I don't remember exactly how to get there," she said, a flicker of pride lighting her eyes. The girl's innocence and satisfaction with such a precarious home left Diego momentarily speechless. He struggled to process this information, recognizing the gravity of her situation. The girl before him didn't have a traditional home, but rather an improvised shelter vulnerable to all kinds of dangers. "Do you live there alone?" Diego asked, his concern evident in his voice. "Yes, and I like living there. I made it all by myself. I even put a window in it," Isabella replied, oblivious to the seriousness of her circumstances. Diego's chest tightened. He admired the girl's strength and independence, but the thought of her returning to such a place deeply troubled him. "Isabella, the nights are cold, and it's getting late. How about spending the night at my house? We can check out your cardboard house tomorrow and figure out how to help," Diego proposed, trying to be welcoming without frightening her. Hesitant, she eyed him with a hint of distrust, but a glimmer of hope appeared in her eyes. "Are you sure? I don't want to be a burden," she said softly. With a reassuring smile, Diego nodded. "I'm sure, Isabella. Come on, it'll be like an adventure." When they arrived at the mansion, Isabella's reaction was one of pure wonder. Her eyes widened and a delighted smile spread across her face. "Wow, this place looks like a fairy tale castle," she exclaimed. Diego couldn't help but smile, genuinely touched by her joy and simplicity. The spontaneity and sincere admiration Isabella expressed were rare in his life, and that brief moment filled Diego with a happiness he hadn't felt in ages. As he led Isabella through the grand entrance, Diego turned to Rosario, the housekeeper, hoping she could handle the unexpected situation. Rosario, always serious and professional, raised her eyebrows in surprise upon seeing the girl beside Diego. "Mr. Diego, what is this? Who is this girl?" she asked, her voice a mix of curiosity and concern. Diego quickly tried to explain, seeking her understanding and support. However, Rosario's reaction was not what he anticipated. "Sir, we can't just bring a stranger into the house. She could be sick. She might pose a risk to all of us, especially your mother," Rosario warned, her unease about the potential consequences of Diego's decision evident. Rosario's response caught Diego off guard, and irritation bubbled up within him. He was unaccustomed to being questioned in his own home, especially when it involved helping someone in need. "Rosario, I expected more understanding from you. Isabella is just a child who needs assistance." "We can't ignore that," Diego replied firmly. The tension in the room escalated briefly as Rosario voiced her concerns about the risks, while Diego defended the importance of compassion. Ultimately, Diego decided to put an end to the argument. "My decision is final, Rosario. Please prepare some clean clothes for Isabella, a warm bath, and a decent meal for tonight," he commanded, his tone leaving no room for further discussion. Though hesitant, Rosario had no choice but to comply. "As you wish, sir," she replied reluctantly. Although asserting himself in this manner was unusual for Diego, he knew he couldn't, in good conscience, do less for Isabella. As the housekeeper walked away to fulfill his requests, Diego turned his attention back to the girl, who observed the exchange with a mix of emotions, still somewhat confused and in awe. Kneeling beside Isabella, Diego offered her a reassuring smile. "Don't worry, we're going to take care of you," he said, trying to ease any fear or anxiety she might be feeling. The girl, still enchanted by the grandeur of the house that resembled a castle, returned the smile, her face lighting up with gratitude and relief. In that moment, Diego felt a profound conviction. Helping Isabella was undoubtedly the right choice, regardless of the challenges that lay ahead. Soon after, Isabella was led to the temporary room that Diego had prepared for her. To her, that space felt like a true palace. She jumped onto the soft bed, caressing the pillows and exploring every corner with the curiosity and joy typical of a child. "It's bigger than my cardboard house," she exclaimed, laughter bubbling up as she darted from one side to the other, admiring the room's splendor. After a warm bath that chased away the cold and discomfort, Isabella slipped into the clean, comfortable clothes that Rosario had set out for her. Though simple to her, they felt like festive attire. Sitting on the bed, she devoured the meal placed before her, each bite revealing her deep appreciation and gratitude. When Diego returned to the room to check on her, he found Isabella lying down, her eyes sparkling with happiness and contentment. "Is everything okay here?" he asked, a sense of satisfaction swelling within him at how quickly the girl had transformed. "Yes, everything is so beautiful and delicious. Thank you so much, Mr. Diego," she replied, her sincerity touching him deeply. "You don't need to call me Mr. Isabella. Just Diego is perfect," he said, sitting at the edge of the bed. The girl nodded shyly, her understanding of her situation beginning to take shape. "Diego, can I ask you something? Is this house a real castle?" The spark of childish curiosity lit up her eyes. Diego chuckled, charmed by the innocence of her question. "It's not exactly a castle, but it's my home, and tonight, it's your home too." He felt a warmth in his heart at the thought of sharing his big, lonely house, even if only for a single night. "How about I tell you a bedtime story?" he suggested, hoping to make her evening even more memorable. Isabella's eyes lit up with excitement at the idea. "I'd love that," she exclaimed, snuggling into the soft blankets. Diego picked a book from the shelf and began to read, his voice soft and soothing as it filled the room. Isabella listened intently, but gradually her eyes grew heavy, and she fell asleep with a serene smile on her face. The next morning, as the sun streamed into the room, Isabella awoke from a deep, comforting sleep, perhaps the best rest she had ever known. However, the morning tranquility was soon interrupted by the firm voice of Rosario, the housekeeper, who entered the room without any preamble, pulling back the curtains and declaring that it was time to rise. "Come on, girl, it's time for breakfast," she said, her tone leaving no room for debate. Still groggy, Isabella rubbed her eyes and asked, "Has Diego already gone to work?" "He won't be back until late," Rosario replied coolly, offering no further explanation or comfort. Disappointment washed over Isabella. She had hoped to see Diego that morning, perhaps sharing breakfast with him and imagining a cozy moment like a small makeshift family. Realizing that arguing with Rosario would be futile, she reluctantly got up and began to prepare for the day. As she brushed her teeth and dressed a bit clumsily, her thoughts remained on Diego and his kindness. Rosario waited impatiently to escort her to breakfast, a routine that felt unfamiliar to Isabella. Sitting at the table, she marveled at the abundance and variety of food, a stark contrast to her life of deprivation. Yet, Rosario's stern demeanor dulled the charm of the meal. With her icy tone, the housekeeper issued clear instructions: do not leave the room under any circumstances. I don't have time to look after children, she warned, making it evident that any disobedience would not be tolerated. Isabella nodded, feigning agreement with Rosario's rules, but inside, she was already plotting to explore the mansion the moment she had the chance. Her curiosity and desire for adventure were too strong to be stifled by strict orders. She envisioned the secrets hidden within the vast house and the unknown corners she longed to discover. After breakfast, Rosario led Isabella back to her room. The girl felt a mix of anxiety and excitement as she contemplated breaking the rules. She knew there could be consequences if caught, but the temptation to explore Diego's world was overwhelming. As soon as Rosario closed the door behind her, Isabella began to devise her next move. Heart racing, she pressed her ear to the door, straining to catch any sounds that might signal activity in the house. When she heard Rosario's footsteps fade down the corridor, she felt emboldened. Waiting a few moments to ensure the housekeeper was far enough away, Isabella took a deep breath and cautiously opened the door, stepping out into the hallway. Diego's mansion was a true labyrinth of discoveries for her. Every corridor and slightly ajar door revealed something new and fascinating. She roamed the halls with wide eyes, each step driven by her eagerness to uncover the house's secrets. At times, she stopped to rummage through drawers filled with old, mysterious objects, and at other moments, she peeked inside large vases that seemed to conceal hidden wonders. The portraits hanging on the walls, depicting faces from past generations, appeared to follow her with their gazes, prompting her to wonder about the lives and stories of those captured in the frames. Every room she entered seemed to whisper ancient secrets, flooding her mind with questions and awe as she explored the mansion. She discovered a slightly open door that led to Dona Carmen's room. Filled with a mix of curiosity and excitement, Isabella stepped inside, finding the elderly lady sitting in an armchair, gazing blankly into space. "Hello," Isabella said softly as she approached. Dona Carmen turned her head towards the voice, but her eyes showed no sign of recognition or understanding. Trying to engage her, Isabella added, "I'm Isabella. I'm a friend of Diego." But Dona Carmen remained silent, her mind lost in distant, unreachable memories. Isabella settled beside Dona Carmen and began sharing stories about the woods, her cardboard house, and how Diego had found her. Although the elderly woman didn't respond, Isabella felt a peculiar connection, as if her words brought some comfort to Dona Carmen. However, restlessness soon stirred within her. The peaceful atmosphere of the room was soothing, but her childlike curiosity wouldn't let her remain still for long. Determined to explore what else the space had to offer, Isabella began examining her surroundings, opening drawers and dressers. She found only ordinary items and some dusty relics, remnants of a past that didn't belong to her. Yet none of this quenched her thirst for adventure. Her gaze finally landed on a large wardrobe in the corner, an imposing piece of furniture that seemed to hold secrets within its intricately carved wood. With hesitant hands, Isabella opened one of the doors, revealing a treasure trove inside. A guitar rested there, promising forgotten melodies, but it was an old notebook that completely captivated her. Carefully, she lifted it out of its hiding place, feeling the weight of history in her hands. The yellowed pages seemed to whisper secrets waiting to be uncovered. Just as she began to immerse herself in the notebook, Rosario's voice echoed down the hallway, abruptly interrupting her moment of discovery. Isabella's heart raced, and she instinctively tucked the notebook under her clothes, fearing the housekeeper might take it away. When Rosario entered the room and spotted her, the reprimand came swiftly. "Isabella, what are you doing here? I told you to stay in your room," Rosario exclaimed, her irritation palpable. The housekeeper's authority filled the room, causing Isabella to retreat, guilt and fear etched on her face. "I was just looking," she murmured, aware that no excuse could justify her disobedience. Rosario, with a stern demeanor, guided her back to her room, reiterating that she shouldn't be exploring the house. "It's not safe, and you shouldn't be touching things that aren't yours," Rosario warned as they walked. The adventure was over for now, but the notebook hidden under her clothes became a secret Isabella vowed to keep, a mystery she was determined to unravel. Once back in her temporary room, Isabella perched on the edge of the bed, clutching the old notebook like a treasured secret, safe from Rosario's watchful eyes and reprimands. With her heart still racing from the recent discovery, she carefully opened the notebook. The delicate pages revealed secrets that seemed eager to be unveiled. As she read on, a new world unfolded before her, a world of preserved memories resisting the relentless march of forgetfulness. It became evident that Dona Carmen had used the notebook as an anchor, a means to hold on to the memories that Alzheimer's was slowly erasing. In several passages, Dona Carmen reflected sadly on the disease, revealing the anguish of watching her memories slip away. As Isabella delved deeper into each page, she uncovered an even more profound aspect of Dona Carmen's life: her passion for music. Among the reflections and recollections were song lyrics and sketches of melodies, signs of an artistic soul that found expression in the beauty of music. She wasn't just a mother grappling with a devastating disease. She was also a composer whose feelings and thoughts transformed into musical notes. Then, Isabella stumbled upon a special dedication to Diego, a song that Dona Carmen had written for her son. The lyrics were simple yet brimming with emotion. "In your eyes, I find my light, like a star shining in the sky. Your smile is my peace, the luck that life gave me. You've grown up, my boy, but in my heart, I always keep you. With love, I wrap you in my arms, and I love you without fear of loving. My little bird, fly high, fly far away, go live your life, for even from afar, I'll always keep you. And through these notes, I'll always, always reach you." As she finished reading, Isabella closed the notebook, deeply moved by her discovery. That song was more than a tribute from a mother to her son. It reflected Dona Carmen's life, her unconditional love for Diego, and her passion for the arts. Yet now, everything that had once defined her was on the verge of being forgotten. Isabella realized she had uncovered something truly precious and felt compelled to help, though she knew she had to be thoughtful in her approach. With this determination in mind, night fell, and Diego finally returned from work. Overjoyed to see her, he suggested a walk through the woods, hoping to recapture the tranquility they had shared the previous night. For Isabella, this was the perfect moment to express what had been occupying her thoughts. As they walked together, she felt a surge of courage to raise a subject that intrigued her. "Diego, Mrs. Carmen, she used to compose music, didn't she?" The question slipped out softly, casual in tone, though her restless hands revealed her anxiety about the answer. Diego paused, surprised, trying to understand how the girl could know this. Yes, she was a very talented composer. Her music was truly beautiful. "But how did you find that out?" he asked, genuine curiosity in his voice. "Oh, while I was exploring the house, I came across a guitar in her room. It was a total accident, I promise." Isabella quickly explained, stumbling over her words. "I love music," she added, trying to divert any suspicion. Diego visibly relaxed, a gentle smile spreading across his face. She really loved to play and compose. It was her way of expressing everything she felt: love, joy, sadness. "When I was little, she even wrote a song just for me. It went something like this." As Diego reminisced, he was transported back to a simpler time, filled with affection and unconditional love. He began to hum the melody his mother had composed especially for him. The music was sweet and serene, evoking themes of eternal love, hope, and protection. His voice wavered at first, but soon gained strength, infused with deep emotion. Isabella listened in silence, absorbing the beauty of the melody. She felt a connection to a part of Dona Carmen's soul, a bond that was now shared with her. Inspired by this connection, Isabella decided to open up a bit more. "I can play the guitar too, you know. I've always been passionate about music," she said, pride shining in her eyes. Diego, both surprised and delighted, looked at her with newfound admiration. "Really? And how did you learn? You're so young. You must be very talented to pick it up so quickly." Isabella smiled, her expression reflecting a mix of sadness and pride. "My father taught me. He showed me many things, how to read, how to play, how to be strong," she said, her voice tinged with gratitude and a touch of melancholy. Diego sensed the depth of Isabella's bond with her father's memory, a relationship marked by love and longing. Moved by her story, he gently asked, "And your mother? Did she teach you many things too?" Isabella lowered her gaze, gathering her thoughts before responding. "My father said she went to heaven right after I was born," she said, her tone delicate and full of meaning. "The angels needed her in heaven. I never really understood why, but she never came back." Isabella echoed, simply the words her father used to comfort her. "Then, when my dad got sick with his heart, he had to go too. And then I was left alone. The neighbors helped me for a while, but I knew I'd have to take care of myself eventually. I didn't want to be a burden to anyone." Her words struck Diego deeply, revealing a childhood filled with challenges no child should have to face. Yet the strength that radiated from her story was like a beacon of hope, a resilient flame that continued to burn brightly despite the hardships of her past. "Isabella, you're incredibly strong. I'm truly sorry for everything you've endured. But now you're here, and you don't have to face it all alone anymore," Diego said, offering not just his support, but the promise of a new family. Their conversation, filled with emotions and difficult truths, ultimately strengthened the bond between them. For the first time in a long while, Isabella felt welcomed and safe, realizing that with Diego by her side, she could embark on a new life. Deeply moved by Isabella's strength and story, Diego vowed to do everything in his power to secure a better future for her, a silent promise of protection and care that he committed himself to fulfilling. After a calming walk through the woods, which helped to solidify their connection, Diego led Isabella back to the mansion. His heart was full of thoughts and warmed by her presence. Gently, he prepared her for bed, ensuring she felt comfortable and safe in her temporary home. As he watched her drift off to sleep, Diego felt a powerful protective instinct awaken within him, a desire to give her everything life had denied her. Leaving Isabella's room, he walked with determination, a new resolve swelling in his heart. He crossed paths with Rosario in the hallway and couldn't suppress the urgency to share his thoughts. "Rosario, I've made an important decision. I want to officially adopt Isabella," Diego declared, his voice steady and resolute. "Adopt her? Diego, are you sure? It's a huge responsibility, especially with everything you're already dealing with." "I'm not convinced you're truly prepared for this," she replied, her hesitance clear. Rosario was not just concerned about the challenges this decision would bring, but also questioning whether Diego was ready for such a significant commitment. Diego remained unshaken by Rosario's concerns. "I've never been more certain about anything in my life," he affirmed, the firmness in his eyes evident. "Isabella has brought something into my life that was missing. I can provide her with a home, a family, and I believe she has much to offer me in return." Rosario studied Diego closely, searching for any sign of hesitation or doubt, something sensible to challenge his decision. But instead, she saw a man transformed by the presence of a child, someone willing to change his life's trajectory entirely for her sake. "Diego, I just want you to think this through carefully. Adoption isn't a decision to be made lightly. You need to be ready for all the joys and challenges it will bring." Diego nodded, acknowledging Rosario's concerns, but his determination remained steadfast. "I understand it will be challenging, but I'm prepared for it. Isabella deserves a chance at a better life, and I want to be part of that transformation." The sincerity in his words was unmistakable, and Rosario recognized that Diego was speaking from the heart. However, the following day, an unexpected event would further reinforce this conviction. The next morning, Isabella awoke with newfound determination. During breakfast, as Rosario served the meal in her usual silence, Isabella seized the opportunity to voice a concern that had been weighing on her mind. "Rosario, do you think there's any way to help Dona Carmen remember things again?" Isabella asked, her innocence mingling with stubborn hope. The question took Rosario by surprise, causing her to pause as the reality of the situation settled in. "Dear Dona Carmen's illness, Alzheimer's, has no cure. Over time, her condition has deteriorated. It's not something we can reverse," Rosario explained, aiming to be honest and avoid raising false hopes for the girl. Isabella absorbed Rosario's words with an unusual maturity for her age, yet the determination in her eyes remained unwavering. "But there must be something we can do to help, even if it's just a little," Isabella insisted, unwilling to accept that nothing could be done. Rosario watched her, struck by the girl's determination. Despite knowing the harsh realities of Dona Carmen's condition, there was something about Isabella's unwavering faith that felt almost infectious. "Well, they say that music and old memories can sometimes touch parts of the mind we think are lost, but there are no guarantees," Rosario cautioned, her tone a blend of hope and realism. Inspired by Rosario's words, Isabella began to devise a plan. She recalled Dona Carmen's notebook filled with songs and the melody Diego had hummed the previous night. Maybe, she mused, music is the key to awakening Dona Carmen's dormant memories. With renewed determination, Isabella resolved to use music as her tool. She successfully persuaded Rosario to let her spend the day with Dona Carmen, armed with hope and a strategy. Entering the room where Dona Carmen spent most of her days, a quiet sanctuary filled with fading memories, Isabella began her mission. She attempted to initiate a conversation, discussing the day's events and small details in the hopes of sparking some reaction. However, her initial attempts resulted in a one-sided dialogue, with Dona Carmen sitting motionless in her armchair, her gaze fixed on a distant point. Undeterred, Isabella shifted her focus to what she believed would resonate with Dona Carmen: music. "Dona Carmen, I saw a notebook in your room filled with songs you composed, right? They're so beautiful," she said, genuine admiration in her voice. "Do you remember when you wrote them?" Isabella spoke with enthusiasm, sharing the lyrics she had read and the melodies Diego had hummed, hoping that these memories would evoke some recognition in Dona Carmen's eyes. "The song you wrote for Diego, I heard him sing it. It's so beautiful, it speaks of love and hope," she continued, striving to reach Dona Carmen's soul through her heartfelt words. Despite her efforts, Dona Carmen's expression remained unchanged. Her gaze was distant, as if she inhabited a parallel world beyond Isabella's reach. However, the girl was not discouraged. She understood that even without a visible response, these moments of connection could hold significance. Determined, she resolved to try a different approach, believing that music and the love it embodied could transcend the barriers imposed by the illness. In a burst of inspiration, Isabella left the room and returned with Dona Carmen's diary in hand. She believed that by seeing her own lyrics and melodies, Dona Carmen might rediscover the memories the disease was attempting to erase. Carefully, Isabella opened the notebook. "Look, Dona Carmen," she said, positioning it so the lady could see the writings. "These are your songs. Do you remember writing them? They're truly beautiful." With hope resonating in her voice, Isabella began to recite the verses, infusing each word with emotion. However, despite the effort and feeling she poured into her reading, Dona Carmen remained unchanged. She sat still, her gaze lost, as if she were in a distant realm unreachable to those around her. Yet the lack of response did not deter Isabella. Instead, it fueled her determination to touch Dona Carmen's heart. Convinced that she needed to explore another avenue, Isabella approached the wardrobe once more, feeling a renewed sense of purpose as she rummaged through its contents. Her eyes sparkled with joy when she stumbled upon a box brimming with music notebooks tucked away beside the old guitar. It felt like uncovering a hidden treasure, the keys to the melodies that had once accompanied the lyrics she had read. Isabella eagerly opened one of the notebooks, flipping through the pages filled with musical notes. Each sheet seemed to hold a promise, a chance to reach Dona Carmen's dormant mind. Asterisk, maybe this will work, asterisk, she mused, crafting a new plan in her mind. If the written words couldn't break through the barriers of illness, perhaps the pure essence of music could. Fueled by determination, Isabella began matching the song titles in the sheet music with the lyrics in Dona Carmen's diary. When she finally discovered a match, a wave of anxiety and excitement washed over her. With Dona Carmen's guitar cradled in her hands, Isabella attempted to play and sing, convinced that the blend of melody and lyrics might awaken a memory in the lady's mind. Yet, despite her growing confidence and the melodies flowing from her fingers, Dona Carmen remained unresponsive. Realizing her lack of familiarity with the exact way to play the songs might be hindering the connection she sought, Isabella refused to give up. She experimented with different songs and adjusted her voice to match the melodies as best as she could. Afternoon turned to evening, and she had to pause her efforts for lunch, but her resolve only strengthened as she returned later to continue. As night enveloped the room, she remained by Dona Carmen's side, singing and playing. Her fingers ached and her throat was parched, yet her spirit refused to succumb to despair. Each chord was a silent plea for Dona Carmen to briefly return to the world that music had once created for her. As the hours passed, Isabella finally took a break. Her fingers throbbed, and her heart was heavy with frustration. Despite all of her efforts, she had not yet elicited the response she so desperately craved from Dona Carmen. Sitting quietly on the floor, guitar at her side, she felt the weight of exhaustion and disappointment pressing down on her. But amid the stillness, a new idea sparked in her mind, a flash of inspiration. She recalled the moment she had shared with Diego in the woods, along with the song his mother had composed especially for him, illuminating her thoughts like a beacon of hope. That was the only song whose melody and rhythm she knew for certain. With renewed determination, Isabella rifled through the sheet music, frantically searching for the song. Finally, nestled among the time-worn pages, she found the treasured sheet containing the notes for the song dedicated to Diego, gleaming before her eyes. Taking a deep breath, she felt a mix of nervousness and anticipation as she positioned her fingers on the guitar strings. With careful intention, she played the first notes, allowing the melody to flow more freely this time, each chord resonating with an emotional depth she hoped would reach Dona Carmen's heart. Then, with a clear and resolute voice, Isabella began to sing the verses she had memorized. In that moment, as the music enveloped the air, something shifted in Dona Carmen's eyes. For an instant, the fog that clouded her mind seemed to lift, and she turned her head toward Isabella as if awakening from a long, deep slumber. Dona Carmen's gaze locked onto the girl, and for a fleeting moment, a spark of recognition flickered in her eyes. Meanwhile, Diego was returning home after a long, exhausting day at work, his thoughts consumed by Isabella and the subtle changes her presence had brought to the mansion. Upon arriving, his first instinct was to find her. Noticing she wasn't in her room, a wave of silent worry washed over him, prompting him to seek answers. He approached Rosario, tension evident in his voice. "Rosario, have you seen Isabella? She's not in her room," he asked, concern lacing his tone. Rosario, busy organizing a few items, turned to him with a calm expression. "Yes, Mr. Diego. She's in Dona Carmen's room. She spent the whole day there, trying to help," she replied, a hint of approval gleaming in her eyes. "Help? What did she do?" Curiosity mingled with concern in Diego's voice. The notion of Isabella spending the day with Dona Carmen intrigued and worried him. Rosario sighed lightly, choosing her words with care. "Isabella spent the day playing guitar and singing to Dona Carmen. It seems she discovered your mother's diary and sheet music, deciding to sing to her. It's something worth witnessing. Come, I'll show you." Rosario then led Diego down the hallway toward Dona Carmen's room. As they walked, Diego felt a mix of anxiety and hope swell within him. The thought that Isabella might have found a way to reach his mother, who had been lost in her own world for so long, seemed almost miraculous, as if something extraordinary was about to unfold. "Rosario, did it really work? Did my mother show any signs of improvement?" Diego asked, his heart caught between hope and the fear of a negative answer. Rosario regarded him with a serious, contemplative expression. "Not that I noticed. When I last saw them, Dona Carmen was as she always is, with no apparent changes. But what truly matters is Isabella's effort and intention." Diego's disappointment was palpable, and he released a resigned sigh. Yet, as he prepared to leave, something unexpected interrupted his thoughts. A soft melody, accompanied by two voices harmonizing, echoed down the hallway. Diego halted abruptly, immediately recognizing his mother's voice in a song he never thought he would hear again. His heart raced, overwhelmed by a torrent of emotions, surprise, hope, and a nostalgia so profound he could hardly contain it. Driven by this newfound hope, Diego hurried down the hallway, guided by the sound that beckoned him forward. As he reached the door to the room, he beheld a scene he had never deemed possible. His mother, Dona Carmen, singing alongside Isabella, united by the music they shared. The very song his mother had composed for him years ago now served as a bridge connecting the past to the present in a way he had never anticipated. Tears began streaming down Diego's face, each drop carrying years of longing, love, and the pain of a loss he had never fully processed. Witnessing his mother so present, so alive in that moment, even if just for an instant, filled him with indescribable joy and relief that felt almost unattainable. Seeing Isabella, the young girl who had managed to touch Dona Carmen's heart in a way he once thought impossible, only solidified Diego's conviction that she should be a part of his family. Diego stood frozen at the door, absorbing every note, every word, as the music enveloped the room and warmed his heart. When the final notes faded, the silence that followed was charged with intense emotion. Dona Carmen, with a clarity in her eyes that he hadn't seen in a long time, turned her gaze to Diego. The smile she offered him was a rare gift, a reflection of the love she still held for him. "Diego, dear, don't cry like that. It'll look like someone hurt you." She spoke, her voice delicate yet surprisingly firm. Those words, as unexpected as they were precious, caused Diego's tears to flow even more intensely. He smiled through the tears, a smile that carried years of pain, love, and unexpressed longing. Unable to contain the flood of emotions, he rushed to embrace his mother, holding her with all the love and yearning he had kept bottled up for so long. Isabella, observing the scene, couldn't fully grasp the depth of Diego's pain and joy, but she felt moved by the moment nonetheless. Unbeknownst to her, tears began to stream down her face, joining the intense emotions that enveloped everyone in the room. Rosario struggled to hold back her own tears, but the emotional reunion touched her heart just as profoundly. That brief moment of lucidity was an unexpected gift for Diego, a flicker of hope amid the darkness that his mother's illness had cast over their lives. But like all fleeting moments, Dona Carmen's clarity didn't last long. Diego watched, a bittersweet mix of gratitude and sadness washing over him as the light in his mother's eyes slowly dimmed, leaving her once more ensnared in the silence and distance that had become her reality in recent years. Before departing, he leaned down to tenderly kiss his mother's forehead, a farewell to that brief but meaningful moment. Turning to Isabella, who was watching him with pride for what she had accomplished, Diego extended his hand and said, his voice still thick with emotion, "Let's take a walk in the woods, Isabella. I think we both need some fresh air." The girl, wiping the lingering tears from her eyes, nodded in agreement and took Diego's hand. As they strolled together beneath the canopy of trees, the only sound was the soft crunch of their footsteps on the earth. This silence spoke volumes, allowing them both to process the day's intense emotions. After a moment, Diego broke the silence, his voice heavy with feeling. "What you did today, Isabella, was extraordinary. I can't thank you enough for giving me that moment with my mother." Isabella squeezed his hand tighter and replied with a shy smile. "I just wanted to help," she said simply, as someone who expects nothing in return. "But I was really happy to see you two together like that. It was beautiful, and I'm glad I could do it. You seem so happy." Diego looked at Isabella, his genuine smile reflecting the warmth in his heart. The moment shared with his mother lingered within him, reinforcing a decision he had made, a decision that would profoundly change their lives. "Isabella," he began, drawing her attention with an affectionate seriousness, "I've been thinking a lot about us, about how unexpectedly you came into my life. This has led me to an idea I'd like to share with you." Intrigued yet anxious, Isabella focused on Diego, eager to hear his thoughts. "What do you have in mind, Diego?" she asked, her expression a mix of anticipation and concern. Diego stopped suddenly, turning to face her, wanting her to see the sincerity and affection in his gaze. "Isabella, how would you feel if I adopted you? If you became officially my daughter?" Her reaction was immediate. Her eyes widened in surprise, before filling with a radiant glow of joy. "Really? You want to be my new dad?" Her voice trembled with excitement, a wide smile breaking across her face. "Yes, really," Diego confirmed, mirroring her smile. "I would love for you to be part of my family, Isabella. You're already my daughter in my heart, but I want to make it official so everyone knows." With a joyful shout, Isabella leaped into Diego's arms, hugging him tightly. "I would love that. Diego, being your daughter and living in this house will be amazing. Having a dad again is a dream." Her voice choked with emotion, filled with happiness and anticipation for the future that awaited her. As they continued their walk through the woods, now bonded by something deep and meaningful, both felt a sense of lightness and renewed hope. For Diego, adopting Isabella represented a significant step toward a future brimming with love and possibilities. For Isabella, it was the promise of a home and family she had longed for. United by music, destiny, and now the promise of adoption, they returned to the mansion, ready to start a new chapter in their lives. In a world where hope often feels fragile, teetering on the edge of adversity, the story of Isabella and Diego stands as a testament to the transformative power of love, determination, and compassion. A few weeks after that unforgettable day, Diego dedicated himself to formalizing Isabella's adoption. The speed with which everything unfolded was a reflection of his determination and the certainty he felt in his decision. Isabella, now officially part of the family, began living under the loving care of Diego, and surprisingly, Rosario as well. The mansion, once silent and empty, now resonated with the joy and energy of the girl. Her thirst for knowledge and brilliant intelligence filled Diego with pride, and unexpectedly, Rosario discovered a renewed purpose in assisting Isabella with her studies. The moments Isabella spent with Dona Carmen, playing and singing, became a source of comfort for everyone in the mansion. Even though brief, these moments of lucidity served as a balm for the scars left by the disease, reminding Diego that true love is never lost, even in the face of Alzheimer's. As a result, the daily routine in the mansion transformed entirely. Each day was filled with learning, music, shared laughter, and moments of gratitude. Diego, Isabella, Rosario, and even Donna Carmen, in her rare moments of clarity, formed a family united not just by blood, but by the heart. Ultimately, this story exemplifies how even in the most unexpected circumstances, it is possible to find and create a family. Isabella's adoption wasn't just a new beginning for her, but also for Diego, who discovered a renewed purpose and joy in life. Together, they proved that even amidst adversity, love, happiness, and belonging are always attainable. In that once empty mansion, now brimming with life and love, every day became a celebration made possible by the strength of love and the magic of family. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, share this video with your friends, and check out the next one appearing on the screen right now. I have many more touching and valuable stories waiting for you. See you soon.